Hey everyone, and welcome back. Are you ready to dive into some seriously ancient mysteries?
Oh, I'm ready.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Today we're not just going back in time, we're going way back.
Way back.
Like before recorded history.
Before history, even.
Yeah. We're cracking open Helena Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It is. And let me tell you, this book claims to reveal secrets about humans from before recorded history. So get ready for some wild theories about our origins.
Blavatsky always brings the wild theories.
She does. She wasn't shy about challenging conventional wisdom, was she?
Never.
Right, so let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
Okay, Blavatsky talks about 7 divisions of Earth, with the first humans being born on each one simultaneously.
So, hold on. No single Adam and Eve.
No. Multiple sets of first people. What do you think about that?
Well, it definitely shakes things up. I mean,
Yeah.
think about the traditional creation story.
Right, it's completely different.
But you know what's really cool? This idea of 7 primeval beings, it pops up in other ancient texts, too.
Oh, really? Like what?
We'll take the Pymander of Hermes, for example.
Okay, yeah.
It describes 7 primordial humans evolving from nature.
Wow.
And we see a similar thing in the Babylonian creation myth, too.
So 7 seems to be a recurring number.
It does, doesn't it? Maybe a common thread or a shared memory across cultures?
Maybe something we've just forgotten about our own origins.
Exactly. It's worth thinking about.
And Blavatsky throws in another curveball.
Oh, here we go.
She describes these first humans as imperfect because, get this, they were sexless.
Whoa, wait a minute.
No sexes, no traditional reproduction. I mean, how did they even exist?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, Blavatsky doesn't get into the nitty-gritty, but we can try to connect her ideas to what we know now about early life forms.
So how do we go from no sex to, sex?
Think about the simplest organisms like bacteria. They reproduce asexually. They basically split themselves.
Interesting.
Blavatsky's suggesting these first humans might do something similar.
So they evolved over time.
Exactly, and eventually developed into the sexual beings we are today.
Okay, that makes a little more sense.
Glad to hear it.
And speaking of long periods of time, Blavatsky uses some mind-boggling timelines, doesn't she?
Oh yeah, millions, even billions of years for human evolution.
Billions. That's crazy.
It is, but her timescales are way bigger than what modern science suggests. To give you an idea,
Okay.
modern estimates put the Earth at about 4.5 billion years old.
4.5.
But Blavatsky's numbers, they're often way, way older.
Wow.
For instance, she says it took at least 600 million years for sedimentary strata to form, which is not what geologists say today.
So is she tapping into some ancient knowledge we've lost?
Or was she interpreting ancient myths in a way that completely rewrites the science of her time?
It's a tough one, right?
It is, and that's what makes her work so interesting.
I agree. Now let's talk about root races.
Okay.
It's like this. Blavatsky believed that just like individual species evolve, humanity as a whole goes through these distinct stages of evolution.
Makes sense.
These are the root races. And she brings in these lost continents.
Oh, yeah.
Atlantis, Lemuria, entire civilizations that came before ours. Crazy, right?
You know, these lost continents, they pop up everywhere in myths and esoteric traditions.
Do they?
Oh, yeah. Like, remember Mu, the supposed Pacific continent?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Now, scientists are divided on whether these places actually existed. Some researchers point to submerged formations and stuff.
Interesting.
But a whole continent, the size of Atlantis disappearing, most geologists aren't buying it.
Yeah, I can see why.
But Blavatsky doesn't just call Atlantis an island, she calls it the fourth continent.
The fourth continent.
Yeah, the fourth continent. What could happen to something that massive?
I have no idea.
Well, Blavatsky connects the disappearance of Atlantis to the fall of man. But not the one from the Bible.
A different fall of man.
Yeah, a different kind. She's talking about the misuse of psychic powers and the Atlanteans getting too focused on material stuff.
Hold on. Multiple falls of man throughout history.
Now that's a fascinating concept, isn't it?
It is.
The idea that humanity goes through these cycles of spiritual growth, then decline.
Cycles of growth and decline.
Exactly. We'll get into that more later.
Okay.
But first, let's talk about Blavatsky's take on how early humans reproduced.
Okay.
She describes some, let's say, unusual methods.
Usual.
Budding like plants, laying eggs like reptiles.
Whoa, really?
And even androgynous births.
So humans were neither male nor female.
It's definitely a challenge to what we think we know about human biology.
Totally.
But think about it. We see asexual reproduction and hermaphroditism in nature today.
Yeah, that's true.
Blavatsky puts the separation of the sexes during the third root race, suggesting a gradual evolution of how humans, did the whole baby thing.
So we're talking about an alien version of our past.
It's wild, right? It reminds us that the human story is way more complex and mysterious than we often realize.
All right, so we've got multiple sets of first humans, lost continents, strange births. What else did Blavatsky have to say about these ancient people?
Well, she talks about these beings called the Anshohans.
The Anshohans.
Yeah, she believed they were like guides for early humanity.
So like cosmic teachers.
Yeah.
Shaping how humans develop.
Exactly. It makes you think about all those myths about gods interacting with humans, right? Yeah. Giving them knowledge, teaching them skills.
Yeah. Like the divine right of kings and all that.
That's it. It makes you wonder, did ancient people really believe they had help from supernatural beings? Or were these myths just symbolic?
That's a great question. Okay, before we move on, tell me more about this fall of man situation. What happened, according to Blavatsky?
Well, remember how we talked about Atlantis?
Yeah.
She links the fall to the Atlanteans. They misused their psychic powers.
Psychic powers, okay.
Early humans had these advanced abilities but got too focused on material stuff.
And that's what caused the fall.
Yeah, and they lost touch with their spiritual side.
So, not like a single event in a garden.
More like a slow decline, gradual spiritual decline.
Exactly. And she even mentions multiple floods throughout history.
Multiple floods.
It ties into that idea of cyclical history, Creation and destruction happening over and over.
We're going to need a lot more time to unpack all this.
I know, right?
But before we go, you mentioned giants earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Did Blavatsky actually believe they existed?
She did. And not just giants. She also had some interesting theories about serpents.
The serpents.
And get this, the pineal gland.
Wait, the pineal gland? What does that have to do with anything?
Tune in next time to find out.
I'm on the edge of my seat. But hey, it looks like we've reached the end of part 1.
Oh.
Yeah. Join us next time as we continue our deep dive into Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine.
We'll be back.
And her mind-blowing theories about the mysteries of ancient mankind. See you then.
Bye.
Welcome back, everyone. Last time, things got pretty wild. Giants, serpents, the pineal gland. Blavatsky really knew how to weave a tale, didn't she?
She did. Where do we even start with all that? Well, how about those giants? Blavatsky wasn't the only one talking about them, was she?
Nope, not at all. You find stories about giant beings all over the place, across different cultures, different time periods.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Think of the Titans from Greek mythology, or Goliath in the Bible.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
Every ancient civilization seems to have had its own version of giants.
It makes you wonder if there's some truth to those stories, Could there have actually been giant humans roaming the earth way back when?
Some people think so. They point to these archaeological finds, skeletons that are unusually large.
Interesting.
But of course, those findings are pretty controversial.
I bet. So the debate rages on.
It does.
All right, let's move on to the serpents. Blavatsky seemed to think they were pretty important too.
Serpents are powerful symbols, always have been.
Why is that?
Well, think about the Garden of Eden story.
No.
The serpents connected to wisdom, knowledge, temptation. Even Blavatsky called them fiery dragons of wisdom.
Fiery dragons of wisdom.
Yeah, it sounds intense, right? But she wasn't talking about literal dragons.
Oh, okay.
She meant divine beings guiding humanity.
Got it. More symbolic than literal, then.
Exactly. Those dragons, they represent spiritual enlightenment, esoteric knowledge, guiding early humans toward a higher understanding.
Okay. Starting to see the bigger picture now.
Good.
Now, what about the pineal gland? For anyone who needs a quick anatomy lesson, it's this tiny gland shaped like a pine cone deep inside the brain.
Right. And modern science says it helps regulate our sleep cycles and stuff.
Yeah.
But Blavatsky had a whole different interpretation.
Let's hear it.
She called it the third eye.
Wait, a third eye? Like psychic powers and stuff?
That's what she believed. She saw it as an organ for spiritual perception.
Interesting.
A way for ancient humans to access higher levels of consciousness. And she even said that this third eye has basically atrophied over time.
Because we're so focused on the material world now.
That's her theory.
Wow, we've covered giants, serpents, a third eye. It's almost overwhelming, isn't it?
It is a lot to absorb. Should we take all this literally? Or is it symbolic?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
That's the beauty of Blavatsky's work. It makes you think outside the box.
It does. It makes you question everything.
Exactly. It's not about blindly believing everything she said, but using her ideas as a starting point.
To find your own answers.
Right.
It's like she's giving us a whole new way of looking at history. at ourselves even.
I like that, a new lens. You know, whether you interpret her ideas literally or symbolically, she raises some big questions.
About what?
The nature of reality, the power of human consciousness, the possibility that maybe, just maybe, higher beings have been guiding us all along.
Okay, that's a lot to ponder.
It is.
We've barely scratched the surface here. What else did Blavatsky have to say about our ancient ancestors?
Well, she had this really fascinating perspective on the fall of man.
Okay, remind me, what's her take again?
Remember how we talked about multiple falls?
Yeah.
Well, Blavatsky believed it wasn't about disobeying God in some garden. It was about a gradual descent into materiality.
Losing that spiritual connection.
Exactly. It was a turning point for humanity.
How so?
Well, we went from the state of spiritual unity to, well, a more separated existence.
So not about a single event, but a shift in consciousness.
That's it.
It's a much deeper interpretation than what we usually hear.
It is. But if humans were so spiritually advanced once, what happened? What caused this shift? Why the fall from grace?
Yeah, good question.
Blavatsky believed it was a bunch of things, actually. Misusing psychic powers, the pull of material desires.
Getting caught up in the physical world?
Yeah. As humans focused more and more on the material, they lost touch with their spiritual side.
Kind of like we traded our spiritual birthright for, I don't know, a taste of the material world.
It's an idea that resonates, doesn't it?
It does. It makes you think about your own life,
Yeah.
your own choices, you know?
It does. This idea of a fall from grace, losing innocence, it's a universal theme.
It really is.
It makes you wonder if there's some truth to it, something we all experience in some way.
So are we stuck in this cycle, rise and fall, forever? Or is there hope to get back to that spiritual state?
Well, Blavatsky thought we're in the 5th root race now, and it's still evolving.
Both materially and spiritually.
Right. And she said we're at a crossroads.
A crossroads.
Yeah, we can keep chasing material things, or we can rediscover our spiritual roots and evolve into something more.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
Not according to Blavatsky. She saw potential for humanity to become something greater, to reclaim that lost spiritual heritage, you know, to transcend the limits of the material world.
That's a powerful message.
It is.
Even if you don't agree with everything she said, she makes you think bigger.
Absolutely. She challenges us to look beyond the mainstream narrative.
Okay, let's recap for a second. We've got ancient humans evolving over billions of years, giants, serpents, a third eye, multiple falls of man, and a choice about our future evolution. Anything else we need to cover before we wrap up part 2?
Well, there's Blavatsky's idea about cyclical time.
Ooh, yeah, the multiple floods.
More than that. She thought history repeats itself. Big cycles of creation and destruction.
Whoa, that's heavy stuff.
It is.
Definitely something to explore more another time.
I agree. But for now,
Yeah, let's take a minute to let all this sink in. It's been a wild ride.
it has.
Listeners, join us next time as we wrap up our exploration of Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine and her mind-blowing theories about the mysteries of ancient mankind. All right, welcome back. We're diving into the final part of our exploration of Helena Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine.
I'm excited for this.
Me too.
Yeah.
We've covered some truly mind-blowing stuff. But today, I really want to unpack this concept of cyclical history, the idea that everything happens over and over again.
Yo, it's a big one.
It is. It challenges our whole perception of time, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we tend to think of time as this straight line, but what if it's more like a spiral?
A spiral.
Yeah. A lot of ancient cultures had this cyclical view of time.
So you mean it's not just about things like floods happening multiple times, like Blavatsky talked about?
Yeah. No, it goes deeper than that. It's about humanity itself going through these cycles, rising and falling, spiritually speaking.
So we're not just evolving towards some perfect future. It's more like we're on this cosmic roller coaster.
I like that analogy. Think about how civilizations have risen and fallen throughout history. Empires grow strong, then crumble. Knowledge is gained, then lost, then rediscovered.
Yeah, that's true.
Even human consciousness seems to go through these phases. You know, sometimes we're more aware, more connected, and then we kind of contract, become less aware.
So Blavatsky saw these patterns as evidence of these bigger cycles.
Exactly.
Makes you think about the choices we're making now and how they could affect not just our future, but humanity's future. What do you think?
I think it emphasizes how interconnected everything is.
Yeah.
Our actions have consequences that echo through time.
So we need to be mindful of the path we choose.
Definitely. We're not just along for the ride. We're active participants in this whole cosmic dance.
Okay, so where do we fit into all of this? Where are we in this grand cycle, according to Blavatsky?
Well, she believed we're in the 5th root race, which is still evolving.
Still evolving every day.
Materially and spiritually. And she said we're at a critical point.
A turning point.
Yeah. We have a choice. We can keep chasing material things, or we can rediscover our spiritual roots.
And maybe move toward a new era of enlightenment.
That's the hope.
So it's not inevitable that we'll just decline.
Not necessarily. Blavatsky saw potential for us to transcend our limitations.
To become something greater.
Right, to reclaim our lost spiritual heritage.
Wow. Even if you don't buy everything Blavatsky said, it's a powerful message, isn't it?
Absolutely. It challenges us to think about our place in the grand scheme of things.
To take responsibility for our actions, for our evolution.
Exactly.
So it's not just about ancient humans anymore. It's about understanding ourselves, our potential, and the choices we make now. What do you think is the biggest takeaway from all this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that we're not just passive observers. We have a choice. We can choose to awaken to our spiritual nature, or we can stay asleep.
It's about becoming conscious participants in our own evolution.
Exactly. Blavatsky gives us a starting point, a new way to look at things. It's up to us to go deeper, to ask our own questions.
It's about recognizing that the mysteries of ancient humankind are really reflections of the mysteries within each of us.
Beautifully said.
Well, this has been quite a journey. Our deep dive into the Secret Doctrine has taken us to some wild places.
It has.
We've explored Blavatsky's unique perspective on ancient humans, their origins, their evolution, their highs and lows.
We've talked about everything from sexless first humans to lost continents, giants, and serpents, and the pineal gland as a third eye.
We even touched on the cyclical nature of time, the idea that history repeats itself.
We've challenged conventional thinking and opened up some new possibilities.
And we hope we've sparked some curiosity in you, our listeners.
That's what it's all about.
That's right. The mysteries of ancient mankind are still waiting to be uncovered. So keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.